After Breath of Fire 4 was released in the last days of the PlayStation, Capcom turned its attention to Sony's next-generation platform, the PlayStation 2. Even for a company that had accomplished so much in many other genres of games, Breath of Fire had become one of the leading RPG series in the world, and a very respectable franchise in its own right. Fans of the series were understandably elated then when Capcom announced the development of Breath of Fire 5 Dragon Quarter in 2002. Interestingly enough, the version that reached North America the next year was rebranded to drop the number 5 for some reason, so here it was only called Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter. When you fire this game up, the first thing you'll realize is how different the graphical style is compared to the other Breath of Fire games. It's exaggerated, cartoony, and features these odd-looking thick black lines on the edges of the characters and enemies. If you ask me, the whole visual presentation is a big disappointment. It looks like something so alien to the series, and is especially substandard since the other Breath of Fire games have such beautifully designed sprites. Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter does try to replicate some aspects of the Breath of Fire series though. Like the others, the main character is Ryu, but this one takes place in a futuristic world where the planet's population has dwindled and people are forced to live in underground hideouts below the planet's surface. The society is ruled by a mysterious group called the Regents and features a rigid caste system. This is transpired because of the misuse of dragons, powerful genetically engineered beings. Nina returns as well as a young girl and test subject of an experimental process that has made her mute. The main story arc involves Ryu and Nina's quest to escape to the surface with the help of a friend named Lin, and a lot of hurdles in their way. The game's subtitle of Dragon Quarter comes from a reference to the game's caste system, as the highest D ratio score a human can achieve is 1/4. I'll give credit to Capcom for taking a big risk to make the story of the 5th Breath of Fire so different from its predecessors, but just like the visual changes, I don't think that risk paid off. Like the other Breath of Fire titles, dragon transformation is also involved here. However, unlike several of the transformation systems, including the fan-favorite Dragon Gene system from the 3rd Breath of Fire game, this one only allows Ryu to transform into a single dragon. I have a lot of criticisms for this title, but the battle system isn't half bad. You have a resource called ability points that is spent on various attacks, with each character having a limited amount and each attack using a different number. If you create strings of gradually more powerful attacks, they become combos that do bonus damage, and you can choose less actions in one turn to store ability points for the next. It was actually a pretty creative system that reminds me a lot of Xenogears, and I thought this part of the game was its most redeeming characteristic. The soundtrack for Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter was created by Hitoshi Sakimoto, who had an extensive career as a composer and had already crafted many popular scores prior to this one. It's a huge soundtrack with lots of infectious tunes, and certainly another one of the game's bright spots. It's a little different from the style of the previous Breath of Fire games though, since it was created by a newcomer to the series, but I think it meets the expectations that fans of the franchise would have. If you enjoyed the soundtracks for Final Fantasy Tactics, Vagrant Story, and Final Fantasy XII, you'll certainly like this one as well, since Sakimoto did those too. The visuals, characters, and story just didn't land for me, but at least the combat system was creative and the soundtrack was fantastic. The game isn't terrible in its own right, but having the Breath of Fire name attached did a big disservice to it in my mind. It was just too big of a departure for the series, despite some loose thematic similarities. Maybe some hardcore Breath of Fire fans would want to go back and play this one again, but I wouldn't. There's far better RPGs to revisit from this era. But what do you think though? Am I being too hard on Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter? Let me know in the comments, or tell me any nostalgic stories you have from playing it. Like, subscribe, and click the bell for more retro gaming content, and please join my Discord community linked in the description. Also, please do consider supporting my channel via YouTube's Join feature to receive member exclusives such as advanced videos and complete video transcripts.